Great afternoon, students. It's Mr. Sargent here, and instead of a recap video today's video, I decided to do something a little extra special. Today's video is dedicated to the science fair project. Now, in 1 month's time, we are all going to be presenting our science fair projects. But the question you may ask is, Mr. Sargent, how do we present a science fair project? I know how to do an experiment, but how do I present a project? Well, today's video is going to walk with you step by step on how to do a science fair project. Now, we're going to do an experiment today that feel free to try at home, but for today's experiment, what we're going to use it for is, well, to create our own science fair project. So by doing this together, hopefully it helps you out when you're ready to do your own. So before we get started, I'm in the wrong gear. There we go, much better. Because science experiments are always better when you have the right safety gear. So ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do today is go through a science fair project step by step to help you out. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what all science experiments should start with, and that is a good question. So before we get into the project itself and the experiment itself, let's talk about something that you probably will need for your science fair project, and that is a trifold. This is a display board that you can find at Walmart or Target or any other store out there. I think they have them at the dollar store as well, in which we're going to share our information and share our display. All right, now when we go through each step of the process, I'm going to show you where you can put them on the board. But ultimately, whose project is this? It's yours. So how you present it, well, is really up to you. But the trifold is a great way to get started. So let's get into the steps that we need to do for our science fair project. Now, as you can see, on my trifold, I have came up with the question, how can we fill a balloon with hot air? Good question. And if you look where it is on the trifold, it is right in the center because, ladies and gentlemen, there is the focus that we want to have. There is the thing that everything that we're going to do for our science project is going to center around. So I wanted that to be in the front where people could see it and know that everything on my display is going to be about how to fill up this balloon. So then we go to our next part, and that is the hypothesis. A hypothesis is a guess. We don't know what's going to work. We haven't tested it out yet. So in our hypothesis, we are going to make a guess of what can happen. And if you look right here, you will see I have put my hypothesis on my board. Do I think we can fill up a balloon with air using, well, the materials that we have? Absolutely. We're pretty good. Here at GPA, we are some of the most incredible science minds ever. All right? So after I have posted my hypothesis, the next step is, well, the materials you're going to need for the experiment. Now, as you look right here, you will see some of the materials that I'm going to use for this experiment. All right. Now, we list the experiment materials on our board because, well, ultimately our goal for doing a science fair project isn't just for a grade. It's not just for, to get it done. Our goal when doing these science fair projects is to inspire others to want to do science, to inspire others to want to do your project, to inspire others to love science as much as you. So when we put the materials here, we have it there so people can see just what they're going to need to do the experiment that you just did. Now that we've gone through the question and we've gone through the hypothesis and we've gone through the materials that we need, we now can do the experiment. So I'm going to go ahead and do the experiment with you right now. And I'm going to show you how to present it on your science fair project. Is tell step by step what you're doing, okay? Because the explanation will come later. So if you look, I have my materials, I have my bottle, I have my balloon, I have my ice water, and I have my hot water. So what we're gonna do, the first thing that we're gonna do after gaining our supplies, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the balloon over the bottle, trapping all the air that's in there. All right, and if you look, the balloon is deflated. So step number 2 is going to be putting the balloon, the whole bottle, in the ice water. And we're gonna sit it there for about 2 minutes. So I'll speed this next part up. So now what I'm going to do is put it in the hot water. And all we're going to do is make observations. Because when you're doing an experiment, you don't have to tell why something happens. You just got to show them that it happens. So let's put it in the hot water and let's make some observations. Well, what are some things that you noticed? Well, the balloon inflated, didn't it? All right, do we have to explain why right now? No, we just have a successful experiment. But to really be successful, well, it's the last step in my experiment, and that is you have to duplicate it or replicate it, which means you gotta do it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the cold water and cold ice. Let's see what happens. Oh, it went down already, didn't it? Okay, so we go back and we leave it in the water for a little bit. Now, I don't have to leave it in that long this time because if you notice, look what happened. It deflated pretty quickly. So for us to have a successful experiment, well, we have to be able to duplicate it. So my next step is I put this back in the hot water. Let's see if we get the same results. We have success, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? So now that we're done the experiment, we make our observations. And that's our next part of our science experiment. Now, I don't know about you, but that was a lot of fun. Now, to present that on my science fair project and put it on my trifold, what I did was at each step of the way, I took a picture. And what I did was I put it on my board and I labeled all the steps that I needed to take. And as you can see here, here are the 5 steps that I used to do this. Now, did I explain anything? No, I just showed how to do the experiment. The explanations are coming up next. So as you can see, after we put the steps, we go to the results. This is when we share our findings. What did we find out when doing this project? Now, for me, you may not see it up here, but my results were when the balloon was in the cold water, it was deflated. When the balloon was put in the hot water, it inflated. And that's it. That was my results. Do I have any explanation there? No. When you put the results in, it's just what happened at the end of your experiment. Did it work? Did it not work? And it's okay for it not to work. A lot of experiments don't work. That's why we keep trying it and we keep changing it. All right? So after we're done with the results, we go to the data. Now, data is information that we put on our project and that we share with the people that are watching our project or looking at our project. This could be, for my project, it could be the temperature of the water. It could be the temperature change of the water. It could be how much did the balloon inflate. For your project, it could be a chart, it could be a graph, it could be any information and any data that you have collected while doing your experiment. And you'd put it right in that section. And finally, just like every great book, every great story, we have a conclusion. And the conclusion is when you get to use all that research, when you get to use all those explanations, when you get to wow the person that is looking at your project with your science knowledge. This is when you get to explain the science behind your science project. Now, for this, my conclusion is that when the air that was inside the bottle was chilled, the molecules shrunk. They got smaller. But when we heated that air up by using the hot water, the air molecules expanded and got bigger and bigger until they inflated the balloon. Ladies and gentlemen, there's my conclusion. My conclusion, did the experiment work? Yes. Were we able to expand air molecules? Yes. Did we use heat to do this? Yes. And that's what I put in the conclusion. Now, some of you may want to write a report about this. I know some of the older students are going to be writing reports about what they researched and what they found out by doing this experiment. You'd also put that information in your report as well. But if you see right here, but sometimes all we have to do is get to the point, explain what happened and the science behind what happened. Now, when you're done the conclusion, well, look behind me. We have a nearly finished product, don't we? We have a finished project. Now, you can put your physical project in there too, but the pictures are great as well. Once you got a final step, you did some proofreading, you did some editing, you took a look at it, ladies and gentlemen, your project is set to go. Now, here's the big thing. If you ever run into a problem or a question, or you're not sure, and we all get like that, don't we? Talk to your teacher. Talk to me. We are here to help. So any way that we can help, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we can come up with a solution for every problem. In a future video, I'm going to be talking about how we can do a virtual science fair project. But hopefully this video has helped you start off your journey in doing your science experiment and producing one of the greatest science fair projects ever. Now, as you know, our science fair starts April 19th. So ladies and gentlemen, you have about a month to work on it. And like I said, please, please, please reach out to us if you need any help. I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a great, incredible weekend.